Iran just delivered a direct kinetic blow to U.S.-Israeli strategic interests within the Levant itself. Let that land. This wasn't a warning shot. This was a targeted removal of a high-value intelligence fusion cell operating within a forward logistics hub. This wasn't some soft target in the desert. This was a hardened facility housing advanced signal intelligence arrays that were critical to regional ISR operations. The weapon used was the QAM-1 liquid propellant ballistic missile, a designation known for its approximately 800-kilometer range and, importantly, its maneuverable warhead designed to evade terminal defenses. The destruction of this specific asset is estimated in excess of $450 million, a figure that includes the specialized equipment, the highly trained intelligence personnel replacement costs, and the strategic loss of months of critical data collection capacity. That is not an estimate. That is a hard figure for rebuilding from scratch. Now understand what this means. And on to the end quick. Before we dive deeper into the strategic implications, a huge thanks for being here. Your support keeps this intelligence flowing. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Hit like, turn on notifications. It genuinely helps us cut through the noise. Now let's get into the hard facts. Now, what we know is that the missile impact was confirmed by satellite imagery processed by multiple open-source intelligence groups, not just government channels. We know the specific coordinates of the strike. We know the facility was operational and collecting until just moments before impact, indicating a high level of Iranian intelligence on its operations. We also know the messaging coming from Tehran is one of calculated retaliations, a direct response to prior perceived aggressions, not a general call for broader regional war. What we don't know is the precise extent of casualties inside the facility. We lack clear intelligence on the specific trigger or the intelligence stream that allowed Iran to greenlight this strike with such precision. We are also in the dark about the internal debate within U.S. Central Command regarding the exact response options on the table, and critically, we do not have the full damage assessment from U.S.-Israel on the exact intelligence vacuum created by this strike, a vacuum that could blind them for months. Stay with me. And most people think Iran is only capable of proxy warfare or asymmetric attacks through non-state actors that they cannot project direct state-level power. The reality is, Iran has systematically invested in, developed, and demonstrated an indigenous precision strike capability that directly challenges state-level military power with sovereign weapons. And here is why that gap in understanding is the most dangerous thing happening right now. This isn't about some Houthi drone. This is about a sovereign state directly hitting a high-value target of another sovereign state. It fundamentally shifts the calculus of deterrence. It means the perceived sanctuary of forward operating bases or critical intelligence nodes previously thought safe is now explicitly at risk. This changes everything for how forces are postured and protected. And this sets in motion a clear domino chain. First, the Iranian strike itself demonstrates a capability previously downplayed by Western intelligence, proving a precise, deep strike reach that has to be taken seriously. This is not a lucky shot. Second, U.S.-Israeli credibility takes a significant hit. The attack goes unprevented and unintercepted, leaving a very public gap in perceived defensive superiority. Allies in the Gulf and beyond who rely on that perceived shield begin to question the reliability of protective umbrellas and reassess their own positions. Third, tremendous domestic political pressure builds on Washington and Jerusalem to demonstrate resolve. But against what target that does not immediately escalate to a regional conflagration? Fourth, any direct retaliatory strike against an Iranian target carries immense risk of Iranian counter-retaliation against other more vulnerable assets or allies, leading to a dangerous escalation cycle where the targeting shifts from strategic to potentially existential. Fifth, and finally, the uncertainty of this new cycle ripples through global energy markets. Oil prices will climb as traders price in the undeniable risk of disrupted shipping lanes or potential production outages in a critical region. What does a truly proportionate response look like in this new paradigm? Let me be precise. An Iranian QAM-1 missile costs perhaps $3,000 to produce. The intelligence fusion cell it likely destroyed cost hundreds of millions in hardware, software, and the training of highly specialized human intelligence assets. The replacement cost the time to rebuild the lost data streams, the disruption to ongoing intelligence gathering operations. This is not symmetric warfare. Iran is trading cheap steel and propellant for decades of investment and operational capability. The US-Israeli response will cost exponentially more. What is the asymmetric math over a sustained period? That is the critical question. Now watch. China is observing this event with keen strategic interest. Beijing's own anti-access area denial A2AD doctrine is heavily focused on using precision missile strikes to neutralize high-value enemy assets from a distance. This Iranian success against a US-aligned target validates key aspects of their own naval and air force missile development strategies. It provides a real-world case study for them. Russia, meanwhile, sees a potent demonstration of how a determined regional power can challenge US hegemony without direct conventional engagement. It informs their own efforts to arm and train proxy forces and clients with similar indigenous capabilities, allowing them to sow instability without direct military commitment. They are not just watching. They are analyzing the tactical and strategic playbook being written in real time. And this is the part no one is saying out loud. The closest historical parallel to this situation is arguably the US experience in the 1980s, following the Beirut barracks bombing where US Marines were targeted by a suicide truck bomb. The initial US response was severely constrained by the desire to avoid broader regional war, leading to a strategic re-evaluation of US presence. The eventual withdrawal and subsequent US reluctance to re-engage directly in complex regional conflicts stemmed in part from that incident. Here you have a direct state-level precision strike that achieves a similar effect of forcing a re-evaluation of presence and risk without the perpetrator having to risk direct conventional confrontation. The operational mechanism of a low-cost, high-impact blow forcing a strategic rethink and a reassessment of deterrence is identical. There are two distinct paths forward here. Path 1, a measured response. This involves a covert or deniable counterstrike against a specific Iranian asset or an asset belonging to one of its proxies, but not a direct, overt state-on-state confrontation within Iran's borders. The morning after this path would see Washington explaining to allies that deterrence has been restored without triggering a full-scale regional conflict. Oil prices would likely stabilize after an initial spike. The Iranian government would likely claim victory in having absorbed a blow and prepared for the next phase. Regional tensions would remain high, but contained below the threshold of open warfare. Path 2. A direct and overt retaliatory strike against an Iranian military target inside Iran itself. The morning after this path would see unprecedented calls for de-escalation from every major global power. Oil prices would surge beyond $100 a barrel, potentially hitting $120 and staying there. American diplomats would face a fractured global coalition with many allies refusing to endorse such a move. The Iranian population would be galvanized against the external threat, potentially solidifying the regime's internal position. China and Russia would condemn the aggression, citing a violation of sovereignty, and use it to advance their own narratives. What does a truly proportionate response look like in this new paradigm, where the cost equation is so skewed? This is not some theoretical exercise for strategists in a bunker. The strategic landscape just shifted dramatically. The cost of doing nothing is astronomical, but the cost of the wrong action could be apocalyptic. Washington and Jerusalem are now faced with a stark choice between perceived weakness and an uncontrollable regional spiral. One side has demonstrated a cold, precise capability to hit high-value targets. The other now must calculate whether their strategic doctrine can adapt to an enemy that trades low-cost strikes for high-value assets and dictates the terms of engagement. That calculus is underway right now.